House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan this past week got slapped around a little bit by Eric Swalwell during Jordan's own hearing, where they were supposed to be grilling Attorney General Merrick Garland about the alleged politicization of the Justice Department. But instead it was Jim Jordan who was reminded about all of the privilege that he has been the recipient of as a Republican member of Congress. Here's what happened. First, you had Republican Congressman Thomas Massey. And Massey was just trying to go after Merrick Garland, asking about the Hunter Biden investigation. Tell us what you know. What is going on? Tell us all of this. And Garland calmly was like, well, I actually can't, because that's an ongoing Justice Department investigation. And it's not allowed for me to tell all the facts of that. And that pissed Massey off. So Massey says, quote, "Aren't you in fact in contempt of Congress when you give us this answer? This is an answer that's appropriate at a press conference." Well, that kind of set Eric Swalwell off. So then when it was time for Eric Swalwell to do his questioning of Merrick Garland, he decided to flip the script on Thomas Massey by calling out Jim Jordan, who should have been held in contempt of Congress. Here's what Swalwell said. "My colleague just said you should be held in contempt of Congress. And that is quite rich because the guy who's leading the hearing room right now, Mr. Jordan, is about 500 days into evading his subpoena. So if we're going to talk about contempt of Congress, let's get real. Are you serious that Jim Jordan, a witness to one of the greatest crimes ever committed in America, a crime where more prosecutions have occurred than any crime committed in America, refuses to help his country? And we're going to get lectured about subpoena compliance and contempt of Congress?" Here's what Swalwell's referring to. On May 12th of the year 2022, Jim Jordan was issued a subpoena by the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th Capitol riot and Trump's attempts to overturn the election results. So May 12th, 2022, Jim Jordan receives that subpoena. He continued to not comply with the subpoena. They were seeking some of his communications because they know on the day of January 6th, Jim Jordan had been in touch with Donald Trump multiple times. They wanted those records. They wanted to know if Trump was telling Jim Jordan, this is what you have to do in Congress. You have to stall, you have to obstruct, yada, yada. They wanted answers to whether or not that's what was happening. And the committee never got compliance from Jim Jordan. You know, Peter Navarro was actually just convicted of not complying with a subpoena for the same type of thing with the January 6th Select Committee. But anyway, so obviously at the end of the year, the committee has to disband because that Congress was disbanding and Republicans were taking over. So the committee issued their final report and was like, hey, by the way, Jim Jordan never complied. And today is actually the 500th day since that subpoena was issued to Jim Jordan, and he never complied. Obviously, at this point, he can't comply because the committee no longer exists, but 500 days, and Jim Jordan did not comply with that subpoena. And he was never punished for not complying with that subpoena either. So Jim Jordan can whine and cry about the politicization of the DOJ all he wants, but the fact is the DOJ could have and should have hit him with criminal charges just like Peter Navarro. I mean, hell, at this point, based on Navarro's trial schedule, Jim Jordan could have already been convicted at this point. But that never happened. So perhaps maybe at the next House hearing where Merrick Garland is present, maybe the Democrats ought to ask him, like, hey, why didn't you charge Jim Jordan? I think that would be a fun little question. I think Swalwell should have added that. Instead of just bringing it up, you should have asked Merrick Garland, like, hey, listen, you're AG. Why didn't you do this? So, you know, maybe just keep reminding the public that if anybody's getting any special privileges from the Department of Justice, it is in fact the Republicans who are getting that privilege. Hey everyone, this is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0 per day, you can subscribe to the Fair and Balanced YouTube channel? We also encourage you to like, comment, and share. But again, click that subscribe button and help Aspen not be so grumpy.